When Whatever Happened to Baby Jane hit theaters in 1962, it didn't just revive the careers of Bette Davis and Joan Crawford. It sparked an entire subgenre, dubbed Hagsploitation or psycho-biddy films. These lurid thrillers cast once glamorous actresses as unstable, dangerous, or grotesque figures. Over the next decade, Hollywood churned out dark, campy tales that mixed horror, melodrama, and the faded glitter of old stardom. 1967's Berserk pairs Joan Crawford with the garish spectacle of a traveling circus. Directed by Jim O'Connelly and co-starring British actor Ty Hardin and Diana Dors, Joan plays Monica Rivers, the tough, unflinching owner of a struggling circus plagued by a string of suspicious accidents.
I keep wondering and thinking, who's next?
High wires snap, tent poles give way, and the body count rises as tensions flare under the big top. Between the bright colors of the sawdust ring and the shadowy corners where secrets fester, the film blends old-fashioned showmanship with a whodunit's creeping paranoia. O'Connelly uses real circus acts for authenticity, giving it an almost documentary feel, before plunging back into its melodramatic murder mystery. By this point in her career, Crawford had embraced the lurid thrillers of the Hagsploitation era. And this one leans hard into the gimmick. She commands the center ring with icy authority, making Berserk a pulpy, over-the-top ride through danger, jealousy, and spectacle. The Killing of Sister George is an adaptation of Frank Marcus's stage play that takes a darker, more psychological turn. Beryl Reid stars as June Buckridge, a middle-aged actress who plays the beloved Sister George on a popular British soap opera. Off-camera, June is abrasive, insecure, and clinging desperately to her fading career and her younger partner, played by Susanna York. When she learns her character may be written out of the show, her personal and professional lives begin to unravel in tandem. The film weaves jealousy, paranoia, and sexual politics into a tense character study. Director Robert Aldrich pulls no punches in showing June's spiraling desperation. While it's less overtly horror than other movies in the genre, Aldrich had already cemented himself in Hagsploitation history with Whatever Happened to Baby Jane and Hush, Hush, Sweet Charlotte. But its frankness and emotional cruelty make it one of the most unsettling and unflinching Hagsploitation films of its era. Lady in a Cage takes a simple premise and turns it into 90 minutes of claustrophobic terror. Directed by Walter Groman and starring Olivia de Havilland, the film traps its heroine in her own home when a power outage strands her between floors in a private elevator. What begins as an inconvenience escalates into a waking nightmare when her calls for help attract a gang of intruders, led by a young James Caan in his first major film role. The action unfolds almost entirely within the house, with the elegant, refined de Havilland forced into a fight for survival against increasingly sadistic tormentors. Mixing home invasion horror with a sharp critique of urban decay and moral collapse, Lady in a Cage is mean-spirited, tense, and impossible to look away from. A prime example of Hagsploitation's ability to wring high drama and violence from a single, contained setting. Whoever Slew Auntie Roo gives Shelley Winters one of the genre's juiciest Hagsploitation roles.
Children don't want to leave here. You have a home now, forever.
Directed by Curtis Harrington, the film reimagines Hansel and Gretel through a twisted lens, with Winters as Rosie Auntie Roo, a wealthy widow who hosts an annual Christmas party for orphans in her sprawling Gothic mansion. Beneath her warm, grandmotherly exterior lies an unhinged obsession with a dead daughter, and a dangerous fixation on a young girl she believes can replace her. When two children begin to suspect her intentions, the story veers into fairy tale horror, complete with locked rooms, whispered threats, and the ominous creak of floorboards in the dark. Harrington leans into its storybook gone wrong atmosphere, while Winters alternates between sugary charm and manic fury. Equal parts camp and menace, it's one of the genre's most offbeat and unsettling entries. Dead Ringer sees Bette Davis pulling double duty as twin sisters caught in a web of murder and deception. Directed by Paul Henreid, best known to audiences as Victor Laszlo in Casablanca. The film follows down on her luck Edith, who hatches a deadly scheme to assume the identity of her wealthy, recently widowed sister Margaret. The plan appears flawless until the lies start to fray, and the police begin to circle. Davis relishes the chance to play both icy elegance and desperate cunning, sometimes within the same scene, while Henright keeps the pace taut and the suspense simmering. With its noir sensibilities, moody black and white cinematography, and a star at the peak of her Hagsploitation powers, Dead Ringer turns sibling rivalry into a stylish, slow-burn thriller. What's the Matter with Helen pairs Shelley Winters with Debbie Reynolds in a twisted blend of musical nostalgia and psychological horror. Directed by Curtis Harrington, who also made Whoever Slew Auntie Roo, the film follows two women who flee to Los Angeles after their sons are convicted of murder. They open a dance school for children of Hollywood hopefuls in the 1930s, hoping to start fresh. But the past lingers. Winters plays Helen, a deeply religious woman whose grip on reality begins to slip, while Reynolds brings a brittle charm to her role as the more glamorous partner. As strange phone calls, stalkers, and Helen's spiraling mental state build tension, Harrington offsets the darkness with bright, period-accurate musical numbers, creating a jarring contrast. By the time it reaches its unnerving climax, What's the Matter with Helen has fully embraced its Hagsploitation roots, offering both campy spectacle and genuine unease. Straitjacket is one of the purest examples of Joan Crawford, leaning all the way into the Hagsploitation era, axe in hand. Directed by William Castle, the showman behind House on Haunted Hill and The Tingler. The film was written by Robert Bloch, who also wrote the original novel Psycho that Alfred Hitchcock turned into a classic. Crawford plays Lucy Harbin, a woman who, in a jealous rage, murders her husband and his lover with an axe, all in front of her young daughter. After 2 decades in a mental institution, she's released to live with her now-grown child. But soon enough, fresh murders start to occur. Is Lucy slipping back into madness, or is someone setting her up? Castle milks the suspense with lurid close-ups, sudden shocks, and a few of his trademark gimmicks. Crawford gives a fierce theatrical performance, making Straitjacket both a camp classic and a surprisingly tense murder mystery. The Nanny sees Bette Davis in one of her most restrained, and therefore most chilling, Hagsploitation roles. Directed by Seth Holt and produced by Hammer Films, better known for their gothic horror, the story trades supernatural frights for psychological suspense. Davis plays the seemingly devoted nanny to a troubled young boy recently released from a home for disturbed children. He insists she's dangerous, but the adults around him dismiss his warnings as paranoia. As the boy's defiance grows and unsettling accidents occur, the film teases out whether he's an unreliable narrator or the only one telling the truth. Shot in stark black and white, with Davis delivering an unnerving blend of maternal warmth and quiet menace, The Nanny builds its tension through implication and performance rather than gore, making its final reveals all the more disturbing. Hush, Hush, Sweet Charlotte reunites Bette Davis with director Robert Aldrich, following the success of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. Set in the decaying Louisiana mansion of Charlotte Hollis, a wealthy recluse rumored to have murdered her married lover decades earlier, the film blends Southern Gothic atmosphere with murder mystery. When her cousin Miriam, played by Olivia de Havilland, arrives to help her, long-buried secrets begin to surface. With supporting turns from Joseph Cotton and Agnes Moorehead, the film is loaded with melodrama, eerie flashbacks, and a violent streak that was startling for its time. Davis's portrayal of Charlotte's unraveling sanity, paired with Aldrich's moody cinematography, makes the film one of the genre's most polished and haunting entries. Whatever Happened to Baby Jane didn't just launch the hag genre, it redefined how Hollywood could use the star power of its aging legends. Directed by Robert Aldrich, the film stars Bette Davis as former child star Baby Jane Hudson. Joan Crawford stars as her sister Blanche, a successful actress now confined to a wheelchair after a mysterious accident. Trapped together in a crumbling Los Angeles mansion, The sisters' relationship devolves into psychological and physical torment. Davis's grotesque makeup and unhinged performance contrast sharply with Crawford's brittle dignity, creating a tension that blurs the line between acting and their real-life feud. With its mix of suspense, camp, and genuine horror, Baby Jane was a critical and commercial hit, paving the way for an entire decade of similar films, none of which could quite match its twisted brilliance. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more glimpses behind the velvet curtain.